for our fifth podcast here. This is Don Alley and Barry Jevesson here, Keith Bear. People must like us that they asked for a fifth one. And I might add that some of the feedback we got was apparently they want to see more cats. So if you see cats walking through here, apparently the internet likes cats. That's why we brought the cats in.
Yeah. I don't think they have cheeseburgers though. Yeah. So
today we're going to talk about bug out bags.
Bug out bags.
Last podcast we talked about the emergency preparedness class, which is still coming up on the 4th of February. So make plans for that. Now bug out bags.
Yeah. So bug out bags are a. This is where preppers and stuff really love. They love the idea of having a bag that they can take with them and go out into the woods and survive the...
lots of toys in it.
Yeah, the zombie apocalypse. And like we talked about last time, is you really need to have your plans in place first to know what goes into your bag. So we had talked about, like, if you have any type of threat, you have your what happens during, that dictates what you need to do ahead of time, and, you know, that also dictates what you need to do afterwards. And from there, that's going to kind of create your to-do list, what I need to buy list, and all other stuff. So if you got a fire, you need to buy a fire. You know, if you're worried about fires, you need to buy a fire extinguisher. You need to buy, you know, smoke alarms and all that other stuff if you don't already have them. You need to put a plan in place that's going to regulate when you change the batteries and everything else. When you test, you're going to have, you know, a to-do list to actually practice your plan and everything else. And in the event of like a total house fire, that would be a high severity fire, you need to have a bag so that you can grab it real quick and get out of the house.
So you're not standing there in your underwear.
Yeah, and your bunny slippers, right? So
I don't have bunny slippers.
You don't have bunny slippers?
No, I don't have bunny slippers. I don't.
But you have cats.
I don't have bunny slippers, okay?
So a little bit of taxidermy. Yep. So the idea is we want to purposely make our bug out bag to be able to handle what we're actually anticipating and what our plans are. Otherwise, it's just a lot of dead weight. I have I do a lot of hiking and backpacking, and I have a background, and I know ounces add up to pounds very quickly. So if your plan for a house fire is to go stay at your brother's house, which is like 10 miles away, and you know you've got a machete in your bag, your brother's probably not going to want to pick you up with the machete in your bag, right? So it doesn't do you a lot of good. A lot of this extra weight doesn't do you very good. Doesn't do you much good. So you've got to plan your inventory appropriately, and that's where most people kind of start going astray. They plan for the I'm going out to the woods thing, which is not a bad thing to plan for. You know, if that's your
if you live in Wyoming or Montana, or if you live up in UP or something, perhaps
that might be your plan.
Yeah.
You know, so if you've got like a deer camp, you know, 20 miles away, and you know there's a gas leak and your house, you know, explodes or something while you're out, and you're like, well, darn. You know, you can manage to fish out your bug out bag from all the debris, you've got nowhere to go, you go to your deer camp and it's a 20-mile hike. It's a different story. And that might be your plan, and that's logical. But, you know, that's not everybody's plan, and it's not most people's plan. So,
again, getting back to the probability and the likelihood of the instance happening.
Exactly. So we want to make our, we call them the threat matrices or matrices, with what the threat actually is, its severity from lowest to highest. So like you might have, like for thunderstorms, you might have low wind, and then you might get all the way up to tornado level wind, where it could actually destroy your structure. And then rain accumulation is the same way. You kind of break it down that way. But then you want to have, when am I bugging out? When is my evac? And you want to have your plan in place for that.
But in fact, I'm interrupting, just stop right there. That's an interesting point you bring up. When you choose to leave, and I know that could be a whole other discussion, but can you give us a little, maybe tease of what?
So an easy way to think about this is imagine living on a big hill, or you know, on the low end of a mountain range type thing, and you got water rising. Okay, so you're able to look down the street and see, okay, there's a flood coming and the water's coming up. And you say, when it gets to that shrub over there, I'm getting in my vehicle and I'm going up to higher ground. Okay, so you've kind of created a trigger, you know, and
drawing your line in the sand.
yeah, and we teach this in the CPL class and stuff like that. Is you have to mentally draw the line where I will act. I will act to defend myself. In this case, you're doing the exact same thing. I will act to defend myself. This is my line in the sand. Just as you're defending yourself from rising water in this case, and not bad guy. So at that point, you say, okay, there's my line in the sand, and now I'm bugging out, quote unquote. And
that's going to be different for everybody.
It's going to be different for everybody, and it's going to be different for every different threat. Okay, so
if your garage is on fire, you shouldn't have too much hesitation to think, I think I could leave my house at this point in time.
Right. Yeah, you might be able to leave your house, but you might be able to say, okay, I'm going to try to fight it as much as I can. All right. Or my neighbor's house is on fire, and he lives, you know, like if you're in one of those cookie cutter neighborhoods where the houses are very close, you know, your house is probably going to be on fire next, you know. So, you know, what is your point at which you say it's time to go? So, you know, that's evac. And in that case, you'd be looking at grabbing your bug out bag to be able to get out of there. So,
and this bag should not necessarily be housing in the gas masks, in the machetes, and the
right,
the toys of the prepper world.
Right. Otherwise, you've got a 80, 90, 100 pound bag that you can't carry, and
that'd be good for weight loss. You go hiking in the woods.
It would. Yeah, it's kind of a built-in plan, and a lot of the preppers that talk about all this could really use it. So, so you have your inventory of what you're going to do, and a lot of this is derived from your plan. I've got my USB drive with all my information that I need on it. I've got, you know, change of clothes, you know, all this other stuff that I'm going to need. If you've got medications that you always take, maybe you have a spare, you know, pack of meds in there.
Yeah, that would be very important, wouldn't it?
Yep. If you got kids, you know, they're going to be crying, they're going to be miserable, the house is on fire, they've just lost all their toys, they have not yet pieced together, at least I've still got mom and dad, you know, they're worried about their stuffed animal that was left behind and stuff. So maybe you put in your kid's bug out bag a couple stuffed animals or something like that. You know about trunk bears?
I have heard of these, yes.
Okay, so these are bears. There's a charity that puts stuffed animal bears, they pay for stuffed animal bears that police can carry in the trunks of their vehicles. So when the police...
Oh, I'm sorry, I misheard you. Yeah, we have trunk bears.
You have trunk bears. Okay.
Trunk bears.
Oh, okay.
This is a thing apparently, trunk bears.
No, this is not trunk bears. Trunk bears.
Trunk bears, yes.
So if you have to go deal with
something
a domestic dispute, you can hand this kid something to grab onto. Some type of normalcy. Parents, if you're making a bug out bag for your kid or an emergency bag, make one for your kid. There is nothing more soothing to a kid than a parent that says, here's your bag, I have taken your well-being into account. He opens it up, there's a candy bar, his favorite candy bar in there, there's a stuffed animal in there. He's pretty much good, you know, as good as he's gonna be.
I'm gonna write this down. I want my candy bar in my bug out bag too.
But you can't fill it with candy bars.
Oh, well, that
might
defeat the purpose.
Yeah. Yep. This 85 pounds of Snickers doesn't work. So these are all things you have to plan for to actually go into your bug out bag. The other thing, and this is the part where the cool guy gear actually gets kind of neat, is backpackers have something called the 10 essentials. And it's like your knife and your compass and, you know, signaling mirror, things like that.
Flashlight, headlamp.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, and the cool guy gear is really fun. It's fun, don't get me wrong, it's cool. And that's the sort of thing that you can put in your bag because odds are you will need it. It's stuff that basically the entire community of survival has deemed worth their weight.
Well, it also has multiple applications. I mean, having a flashlight is always useful. The knife can be always useful. You know, sometimes, though it's not always useful, or I should say needed, having a flint or one of those modern fire starters.
Yep.
Because they don't take up much space, and they definitely don't take up much weight.
Exactly.
So,
yep.
Yeah, these are things that have multiple applications, multiple uses for. So it's not just in the world's ending. I need this in my kit. It's the practical things. I need a flashlight to search through something. I need a knife to cut a rope or cut through, even open a box.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yep. And you know, yes, it's cool, guy. It's fun. You know, water containers, stuff like that. It's all really cool, and that's where you can actually get into having the fun with your bug out bag. But it's important not to lose scope of what it really is.
I can see the price going up very quickly.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
If you do.
So the other thing with the bug out bag is we talked about it getting up to 85 and 100 pounds very quickly. You need to start looking at making tiers of bag. Okay, so I have a bag that I pretty much carry with me everywhere. That's my tier 1, and it's got the cordage, the knife, you know, the compass, fire starting, water container, water, you know, all of the basics. It's got a spare pair of socks, spare pair of underwear, toothbrush, all the other stuff for hygiene, to where if I have to go and leave my home really quickly, it's all there. You know, I've got some extra cash in there.
Yeah.
You know, I've got my data in there that I talked about, and really not a whole lot more. All right. Now I do put some other stuff in there because it's also my day bag. You know, some people say it's your man purse or something like that, and that's how you should consider.
Indiana Jones had one, so it's.
He did. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah. It's called a satchel. Make it all leather and stuff and beat up. You know. And maybe put like some blood or something on it so people know not to ask too much about it. But you know, that's the type of thing that you should have with you most of the time. And if you're going to leave it somewhere, you should have something in your pocket, like a little first aid kit or something like that, to be able to just act autonomously. A lot of people will make a super small kit out of an Altoids tin, which is just the bare minimum, and it would be miserable to have to survive with just that. And the whole time you're complaining about it, you're still recognizing that it's barely better than nothing. So if you got your tier 1 kit, you know, mine has a spot for my laptop in it because I have to use that every day. I've got a couple of adapters in there for like a projector or something like that. You know, it's more than just my survival kit. It's kind of what I need day in and day out. There's some pens in there, just a spare pair of glasses and stuff like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. When you start getting into your I need to bug out, that's where you take your tier 1 kit and you kind of merge it with your tier 2 kit, which has got a lot more stuff in it, you know. And that's where the weight goes. This way, by making two kits, you know, or an additional kit, a supplemental kit, you really start not having to worry about weight too much. The really cool thing is when you start adding in vehicle intent stuff. You know, like as your vehicle, you got a couple wool blankets, a tarp, some other stuff, you know, some extra water in your vehicle and things like that. You can start building on this to where weight's never a concern. Your kit is very, very versatile and flexible as far as what you can carry, and it's also very scalable to what you can carry or what you have to carry. You know, because the odds of having to bug out of your home without a vehicle are virtually none. You know. There might be like after a tornado, you can't get your vehicle, you don't know where your vehicle went, or you can't get out of your neighborhood because of all the downed stuff that's in there. That's one possibility, you know. But odds are, if you have to evacuate or leave your home or bug out, it's going to be vehicle based, and you can have some extra stuff in your vehicle. The kit I chose, and I'm not endorsing them in any way, but it's working really well for me, is there's a company called Everly Stock. They make backpacks, and I have the backpack. It's called a Sky Crane 2. And the really cool thing about this backpack is it's a, you know, I don't want to say it's a day pack because it's a little bit bigger than a day pack, but it merges into a full frame backpack. So there's this whole frame that goes around it. So you take this backpack, you put it, you attach it to this other full frame thing, which you have, you know, like a water bottle canteen, you know, your machete and all that other stuff that you know, that type of thing that you would have extra. You can merge it onto there, you know, and you can throw that whole thing in your car, you know, and or your truck, and then go from there. So that has worked out really well for me as far as backpacks go, just because it's scalable. I know some people have a smaller backpack, almost like a North Face day pack or something like that, that they use as their get home bag, or their which is a micro version of a bug out bag. They'll use that as their get-home bag or their bug-out bag, and they leave enough space in a full-size, like hiking and backpacking intent backpack, so they can actually put this thing in there. But in that big bag is their, their sleeping bag and a bunch of other things that they might actually need. So it's scalable that way as well. So those are different ways you can build your kit. You definitely need to be modular. You have to keep in mind how much you can carry, what your perceived threats are. We didn't even talk about firearms. Having a long gun in a situation like this really isn't a bad idea.
Well, I know a lot of people have their truck guns.
Yep.
So if you're talking about having your it would be your tier 2 bag that's in your car, keep your truck gun there.
Yep.
And because long gun, probably, well, you can carry around on a sling, I suppose, if you have to. But
yeah.
And depending on where you're at, it might not be the most prudent thing to have it out. But if it's in your car, it's available.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, I'm not talking, gas mask and trying to make it through urban wasteland that has gone mostly, feral. But
no, we're talking very practical steps to take that people, if they take them, it will lessen the impact of a traumatic incident.
Exactly.
We talked. You said heavy thunderstorm, tornado. Earthquake, it's possible it can happen here in Michigan, but hopefully it doesn't.
Yep.
Meteors coming from the sky.
Yeah.
We just had that happen a couple weeks ago.
It can happen, it can happen anywhere for any reason.
Yeah.
Look at Koreatown in Los Angeles after, was it?
It was the Rodney King riots in '92.
Yep.
That's right.
So, for whatever reason, and I'm not a race relationship expert, but for whatever reason, the Korean people and black people had this animosity. And when the Rodney King verdict was handed down and all of this strife started happening, basically there was some opportunity perceived to where these people could settle some scores.
And you know that unfortunately the police had pulled out at that point in time.
Yeah.
So they were on their own.
Yeah. And long guns saved much of Koreatown. These are old Chinese, Norinco SKSs with a bunch of Korean people up on top of their
I
roofs.
saw some Mini 14s. So.
Okay, yeah. And they were defending their town. Now, I don't know if they had other people off instigating. I'm not going to get into that or not, but this is a real case, homeland, on American soil, where long guns preserved life. And it's because these people had them. These people didn't necessarily have a full, bug-out bag and a full system in place for all of this. They were reacting to the scenario, which luckily was localized enough to where they were able to stand their ground and do this sort of thing. But you can't just look at long guns and say, I'm dismissing it just because normal society, we carry handguns because polite society, right? But that's a normalcy bias. When things start really going down, a long gun is very handy. So that's something that you can put in, like you said, in a tier 2 bag and something like that. Extra ammunition, lead weighs as much as lead. It's a pain to carry around, and but you need to. And this is where all this stuff really starts adding up. So you can go back to your threat matrix from the Emergency Preparedness 1 class, and you can look at, okay, I'm worried about civil unrest. And if you live in a urban environment, that's probably not a bad thing to consider. It happened with Rodney King. It happened in Detroit, Ferguson.
Just look at the fact that where it happens, if it happens in an urban center, the issue is getting away from it too. You may want to shelter in place, or you're just trying to get away from it. Is a little bit more complicated because you're going to have multiple people, probably a large portion of the population, thinking the same thing, and you could be stuck in gridlock. In suburbia, it's a little different. In the country, again, threat matrix, as you'd say, it would be less of a probability of it happening in the country because it's just too spread out.
Yep. Yep. But you put in your plan. Let's say you do live in urban. You put in your plan. This is my evac point. Okay, I need to get out of Dodge here. Well, the next logical conclusion is if I'm getting out, I'm going somewhere.
You gotta go somewhere.
Where am I going? What plans do I have? Well, I'm going to my uncle's house. He lives way out in suburbia. Well, have 6-10 routes to get there. Some of them might be around. Some of them might be down dirt roads. Some of them might be, not entirely convenient. the highway would be great, but it's not always the case.
Yeah.
So
I'm reminded of when we had this torrential downpour. What was it, 2-3 years ago, and parts of 75 had 12 feet of water.
Yep.
I mean, they were impassable.
Yep.
So it's not always going to be there for you. The roads, their availability and their accessibility can change very quickly.
Exactly. Yep. So when you're making your bug out bag, look at what your plans are, what your escape route is, what you're actually going to be using this for, what you'll need when you get to where you're going, what you'll need to get you where you're going. Look at all that stuff. Keep in mind the 10 essentials of what you're going to need as far as surviving goes, hydration and all that other stuff. And look at what you're going to need for protection, what you're going to need for medical, and stuff like that. That's where the reality of your kit comes in.
What are you preparing for?
Exactly, yep. And I mean, I know you joke about gas masks, but there's like refineries and stuff in Michigan.
Well, funny enough, one of the things I remember back a long time ago in the police academy, we were talking about possible threats in the area that I would later patrol.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a training that goes through there. And our instructor at the time, a lieutenant with Bloomfield Township, had said, that train every other day or with certain regular intervals carries chlorine.
Yep.
Okay? And if there's an accident,
yep.
and that chlorine gas can become very, 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 very bad for you.
Yep. Yep.
And that was a very, very big problem.
Yep. So if you live near that train track, as silly as it sounds, gas masks might be a very logical thing in that scenario. And with this course, we want to build that in and say what's right for me. A forest fire isn't right for a suburban person living in a neighborhood. It's right for someone who lives way out in the woods, though. But then worrying about civil unrest is not so much of a worry for some guy way out in the woods as it is for someone living right in the middle of downtown. Mm-hmm. So just being scalable like that and tailoring your plans to you, and then as a result tailoring your bug out equipment to you is really what we're going for here.
Okay.
So,
and this is going to be included in the February 4th emergency preparedness.
An intro is to it. That we're actually going to have an emergency preparedness 2 course that covers bug out bags, whereas the emergency preparedness 1 course is going to be a full prerequisite to it, because you got to know that structure and what you're actually planning for to be able to plan for the bug out bag.
Makes sense.
So it'll be a continuation of it, but there'll be some intro stuff on it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to this, and I hope you all can join us for that, because it's going to be educational. I know I've learned a lot just talking in the discussion right now.
There you go.
So, all right. Well, I think that's all the time we've got right now, and I don't think one single cat came through. So we're probably not going to get as many likes on Facebook, and the internet's not gonna. We're not gonna go viral because of that. But that was the breaks.
You need to put like lines of cat.
Lines of cat. That's it. Get the catnip in here.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us, and take care, and always be safe.